Do you ever feel a sudden, overwhelming urge to run away the moment someone gets too close to you? Maybe you meet someone amazing, a potential partner or a new best friend, and everything is going perfectly. But then, right when the connection starts to deepen, a switch flips in your brain. You start finding flaws that aren't really there. You take hours, then days to reply to their texts. You feel a physical sense of suffocation, like the walls are closing in. And the only way to breathe again is to isolate yourself. You convince yourself that you just prefer being alone, that you're too busy, or that they are too needy. But deep down, in the quiet moments of the night, you wonder if something is actually wrong with you. You wonder why you seem capable of building bridges, but always end up burning them down before anyone can cross. If this sounds like you are likely stuck in the self-isolation loop. Society often labels this behavior as being cold, heartless, or having commitment issues. But that is a lazy explanation. In psychology, pushing people away is rarely about hate or indifference. It is almost always about safety. It is a complex biological defense mechanism that you built to survive. Today, we are going to dissect the anatomy of why you push people away. We are going to break this down into 3 specific types of people. Type 1 is what everyone sees on the surface. Type 2 is the hidden wound that drives the behavior. And Type 3 is the twist. It is the hidden strength inside this pattern that you haven't realized yet. Let's begin the diagnosis. To understand your behavior, we first need to look at the symptoms. This brings us to Type 1. The strategic ghoster. If you identify with Type 1, your primary defense mechanism is the fade out. If you identify with Type 1, your primary defense mechanism is the fade out. You might reply to messages instantly. But the moment the dynamic shifts from casual fun to emotional expectation, you start to withdraw. It is rarely a dramatic explosion. Instead, you become slow to respond. You start giving one-word answers. You become busy with vague work projects that don't actually exist. A classic hallmark of Type 1 is the phenomenon known as the ick. This is when your brain suddenly fixates on a tiny irrelevant flaw in the other person to justify pushing them away. Suddenly, the way they chew their food, the sound of their laugh, or the emojis they use becomes unbearable to you. This is not because they have actually become annoying. This is your subconscious mind frantically searching for an exit strategy. It is looking for a logical reason to detach so that you don't have to face the emotional reason. You don't want to break their heart, so you convince yourself that they are the problem. When plans get cancelled, you don't feel disappointed. You feel a wave of euphoria and relief. That relief is your biggest clue. It tells us that for you, connection feels like work, and solitude feels like freedom. But why does connection feel like such a heavy burden? To answer that, we must dig deeper into the psychology. We must look at Type 2, the wounded architect. Type 2 explains the mechanism behind the ghosting. If you are this type, you are likely operating under a psychological blueprint known as dismissive avoidant attachment. At some point in your early development, you learned a hard lesson. Depending on others is unsafe. Perhaps you had caregivers who were emotionally unavailable, causing you to learn that crying for help yielded no results. Or perhaps you had caregivers who were intrusive and overbearing, teaching you that intimacy means a loss of freedom. As a result, you became the architect of your own survival. You built a glass fortress around your heart. This fortress is invisible, but it is impenetrable. Inside the fortress, you are safe. You have total control over your environment, your emotions, and your time. No one can hurt you here, but no one can hold you either. Biologically, this is not just a mindset. It is a physiological response. When someone tries to enter your glass fortress by asking about your feelings or expressing love, your amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, lights up. While a securely attached person releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, during intimacy, your brain releases cortisol, the stress hormone. Your body literally interprets closeness as a threat to your autonomy. You feel the same fight-or-flight panic that you would feel if you were trapped in a small room. Pushing the person away is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of regulating your own nervous system. You are pushing them away so you can lower your cortisol levels and breathe again. But here is where the narrative shifts. If we only stop at the trauma and the fear, we miss the most fascinating part of this psychology. This brings us to type 3, the self-sufficient guardian. This is the twist that most people, and perhaps even you, have never considered. What if pushing people away is not a sign of weakness, but a symptom of a powerful, albeit misdirected strength? If you resonate with type 3, you possess a rare and undervalued skill, the mastery of solitude. While the rest of the world is terrified of being alone, constantly seeking validation from likes, texts, and superficial hangouts to fill the void. You are different. You are completely whole on your own. You have developed an elite level of self-reliance. You know how to soothe your own anxiety. You know how to entertain your own mind. You do not need another person to complete you, because you have spent a lifetime building a complete world within yourself. This behavior is not just avoidance, it is a form of high-level quality control. This behavior is not just avoidance, it is a form of high-level quality control. Because you are so comfortable with your own company, your standard for letting someone in is incredibly high. You treat your energy like a limited, precious resource. You are not pushing people away because you are broken. You are pushing them away because most people are simply noise, and you value your peace too much to let the noise in. Society tells us that need is the basis of love. We hear lyrics like, "I can't live without you." But type 3 knows the truth. Need is actually a poor foundation for a relationship. When you need someone, you tolerate toxicity just to avoid being alone. But when you are the self-sufficient guardian, you tolerate nothing. This means that your instinct to isolate protects you from codependency. It protects you from losing your identity in someone else. The ability to detach is actually a superpower in a world that is overly attached. It means that if you ever do decide to lower the drawbridge and let someone into your fortress, it won't be because you need them to survive. It will be because you purely, genuinely want them there. And that is the purest form of love that exists. It is a choice, not a dependency. So, the twist is this. You are not pushing people away out of fear alone. You are preserving the sanctity of your inner world until you find someone who respects it as much as you do. Now, let's ground this in science so we can actually use it. Why does this urge to isolate feel so physical? Why does it feel like a literal weight on your chest? It comes down to a conflict in your neurobiology. We have the prefrontal cortex, the logical part of your brain. It knows that loneliness is statistically as dangerous to your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. But then we have the limbic system, the ancient emotional core of your brain. For the wounded architect, the limbic system has a hyperactive threat detection setting. Think back to the glass fortress metaphor. The problem is, the glass has become too thick. It does an excellent job of blocking out the arrows of rejection, judgment, and betrayal. But the laws of physics apply to emotions too. If nothing can get in, then nothing can get out. That empty feeling you experience, that is not peace. That is emotional hypoxia. You are suffocating inside your own safety. So, how do we reframe this? How do we keep the strength of the self-sufficient guardian without suffering the loneliness of the ghoster? The answer is not to smash the glass. We don't want you to destroy your defenses and become completely vulnerable to everyone. That would be reckless. The goal is simply to install a door. You need to move from reflexive isolation to selective connection. Currently, your isolation is a reflex. It happens automatically when you get scared. We want to turn it into a choice. This means practicing what psychologists call titrated vulnerability. Think of it like micro-dosing connection. You don't have to merge your soul with someone else's today. You just need to open the door 1 inch. Share one small fear. Admit to one person that you are having a bad day instead of saying, "I'm fine." Send that text message even though your finger is hovering over the delete button. When you do this, your amygdala will scream at you. It will sound the alarm. But if you sit with that discomfort for just a few minutes, the alarm will fade, and your brain will learn a new piece of data. I let someone in, and I didn't die. I am still safe. You have spent years building a fortress that keeps the world out. Imagine what you could build if you used that same architectural genius to let the right people in. You are not destined to be alone. You are just a guardian who needs to learn that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is lower your shield. So, I have to ask, which type are you? Are you the strategic ghoster who runs when things get real? The wounded architect protecting an old injury? Or are you realizing that you are actually the self-sufficient guardian ready to install a door? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, your boundaries are there to protect you, not to imprison you.